it is. If you go to also the 10th verse of Proverbs 2, it says, when wisdom enters into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, and understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh forward things. So when we read about what God is telling us about, even when we go through, and even when he says count it all joy when you go into diverse temptation, and about the trying of your faith, in Proverbs 3, it says in the Proverbs 3 at verse 12, oh no, start at verse 11. Proverbs 3 and starting at the 11th verse. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary at his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he corrects. And even as a father, the son is in him in whom he delighteth. Even as a father, the son in whom he delighteth. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. So that was verse 11 through 13 of chapter 3. And even chapter 3, starting at the 24th verse of chapter 3 of Proverbs. The 24th verse of chapter 3 of Proverbs. Started 24th verse, it says, when thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of desolation of the wicked when it cometh. For the Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken. Withhold not good from them to whom is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. So he just constantly over and over gives wisdom and tells us about how important wisdom is to us. But it's the wisdom of God. That's why he says about not seeking man. Christians who trust God also seek wisdom from him. So you seek wisdom from God, as some of the things that I read, and not ungodly sources. So when you're reading about wisdom, Proverbs is the most unbelievable chapters. And I was reading in 2 and 3. We read some from chapter 2 and chapter 3 of Proverbs. And it's constantly over and over giving wisdom. As James talked about how God will give it in verse 5 of James, when he says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. They give it to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. So God will give it to you. But we have to do something. We have to ask. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. So everything is related to doing something, to gain a deeper trust in God, and to gain wisdom from God, and to learn how to develop patience. So sometimes we think that temptations is it may be hard, it may be difficult, but in verse 3 it says, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. So that temptation is trying of your faith. And as it is trying your faith, as you are going through, it's working. Your faith worketh patience. Your faith worketh patience. Your faith don't just you just don't sit there. You grow from faith to faith, glory to glory. You grow in faith. It's not something that you just obtain right away. So, and also how important it is for Christians to trust God is so important. James writes that we should call our worst moments joyful things. Our worst moments in life, joyful things. Does it feel good when you lose a loved one? I have to speak this only because I've been through a lot of it. Is that at first when you feel it initially it hits you, or especially if it's a sudden, or if it's somebody that has gone through long-term illnesses, it's still not easy. But as you go through that, I've seen many people, family members, I've seen husbands preach their wives' funeral. I've seen children sing at their mother's funeral. I've seen so many different ways that they strengthen the people that come to support them. And they have this type of joy that you be like, yeah. Well, that joy comes from just what they just said. That James said, that we should call our worst moments joyful things, because trials help us trust God more. Each time that I've gone through, I've realized that it pushes me when I'm going through. It pushes me, not push like you pushing somebody hard, but it moves me closer to God. It moves me in a desire to seek His face. It moves me to get on my knees. It moves me as I'm even in tears to fall on my face, to cry before the Lord, to reach out for His hands, to ask Him to hold my hand, to comfort me, to strengthen me as you go through. But to not say, woe is me, or not to murmur or complain, but just to say, God, I just need your help. I know you are there. I need to trust you more. So people who trust God ask Him for wisdom, and then take what He gives. Take what God gives. Sometimes we ask for something and then we don't take it. I didn't think about that all the time. Whenever I was asking God for something, I didn't even turn around to say thank you, or even reach back to say, oh, thank you for the wisdom, God. Are we grateful, related to wisdom, and when God gives it to us? When God gives us not only wisdom, but when God takes us through things that we thought were impossible, and we get past it, and then we look back and something else happens like that again, and we act like we've never been through, but God has already brought us through it before. So people who trust God make a bigger deal about their rewards in the next life than their wealth in this one. People who trust God make a bigger deal about their rewards in the next life than their wealth in this one. See, wealth here, it don't mean nothing. Because really, truthfully, you can get it. And I'm sure as I said, the grass withers, the flowers fade. Just as fast as your life can too. That's all gone. And they can pack it up in the casket if they want to. But guess what? I bet they're not going to leave it there. Somebody else going to get that. So don't stress and drive yourself nuts and go crazy trying to build up wealth. Build up those rewards that are in the next life to go to heaven, to go to the next place. Go to the next place. Where's the next place? Go to God, to go to heaven, to be with Him. And those rewards I want. I want my crown. I want all the diamonds on it. I want everything. I don't want to miss a thing. So people who trust God don't blame Him for their desire to sin. Woo! People who trust God don't blame Him for their desire to sin. They gave Him credit for all that is good in their lives, and they looked into His word and they act on what they see there. So we read down to the 11th verse. So let's read the 12th verse of James. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. Okay, now. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Want me to read that 12th verse again? I'll be glad to. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Verse 13, let no man say, when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. So do not err, my beloved brethren. It says, do not err. And in the Amplified, as I was looking at it, it says, and I want to make sure I'm in the right place, in James, because I'm going to go back to James. I'm still in James. I'm just trying to find it. I forgot it's all the way down at the bottom. And we're at the 12th verse. I think that's where we're at. Yeah. And James 1 again, I wanted to repeat it, but I wanted to read it in the AMPC, just to spread it out just a little bit. And he says, blessed, happy, to be envied is the man who is patient under trial. Wait a minute. Hold up, y'all. See, I knew there was something a little bit to verse 12 of James 1. It says, let's say this again. Blessed, happy to be envied, is the man who is patient under trial and stands up under temptation. For when he has stood the test and been approved, he will receive the victor's crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. So and it says blessed first. Then it says the man who is patient under the trial he's going through stands under temptation, for when he has stood the test and been approved. When he has stood the test and been approved, he will receive the victor's crown, victor's crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. And in 13, let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted from God. For God is incapable of being tempted by what is evil, and he himself tempts no one. But every person is tempted when he is drawn away, enticed, and baited. Listen at that, baited by his own evil desires. Baited, put a fish. If you fish, they put worm on the hook and then throw it out there for the fish. That's bait for the fish to get on that hook so they can catch them. Okay, so here it is, verse 14. But every person is tempted when he is drawn away, enticed, and baited by his own evil desires, lusts, and passions. So lusts or passions. And then the evil desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully matured, brings forth death. Do not be misled, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect, free, large, full gift is from above. It comes from the Father of all, that gives light, in the shining of whom there can be no variation, rising or setting, or shadow cast by his turning, as